In this session, I'm only going to look at the open and immerse phases of inquiry learning. What happens in these phases is the very first part is that you encourage curiosity and you stimulate their thinking to get them into what we call an inquiry state of mind. Then you immerse them in the content, and that allows them to make connections with the curriculum. So they're the two that we'll look at just in this section now. There are certain essential skills, and if we look at the blooms which I looked at in the previous session, you'll see that some of these are repeated here. In this area, what we're looking at is some core skills in that inquiry state of mind, that students will be looking at this recalling and retrieving and remembering. The type of community or classroom setting is that we want to get them into that state of mind, to open up their minds, to set the inquiry direction, set the tone of what's happening, start to spark some conversation, interaction with the students. At this web link here, you'll find this particular document. Now that's in your reference list below, so you will be able to go and look at that in a little bit more detail. In this first section, this is where there's a lot of brainstorming tools that you can use that are suitable for primary and secondary schools. Some of these that I've got here are text based, but they're also others are multimedia, which means you can bring in and capture in the brainstorming videos, images, all this type of extra multimedia material, not just text. Some of them require sign-on and some of them don't, and so you can work then what the age application would be. So for example, Padlet is not a sign-on. You give the students a URL link and they can respond to that. Or if the students, older students are involved, they can set up their own Padlet wall and use that to capture their information. The Stormboard and MindMeister are probably more for your secondary, and these Bubble Us and Poplet can be for primary. Now with Poplet, that is also an app. And the light version is free. The other version that you can download as an app, I think, is around about $6.50 if you're wanting to use that. But in this state here, this is where you're stimulating the curiosity. You're starting to get them thinking about what it is that they are wanting to consider and what they already know within the topic that you're exploring, and it's the invitation to inquiry. So you're taking them through the process, and these tools that I've listed here, as well as the ones that you'll find under this topic of open, or this phase of open I should say, you'll find some links here, and again these two links are in your reference documents as well. But you can use these tools to go through the whole inquiry process, because what is captured here can then be refined, can be added to, aspects can be deleted as they narrow down the focus for what they're going to do. Now with Padlet, as I said, this is a no sign-on, and you give the students the URL. So there's a video below on how to set up a Padlet and how you can use it. I've seen Padlet used across a range of subject areas, from English through to social sciences, and used either by the teacher and getting the kids to be involved in contributing to the wall that's created in Padlet, or students themselves as a group setting up a Padlet and as a group capturing their response to something. So it can be used for individual, but also can be used for group, and even for that matter for whole class. So that's the open stage, where you're engaging the student and you're trying to get them thinking about what it is that they know and the information, the facts and the data that can be captured. Then the next stage is the immerse stage, and this is where you're immersing the students in a whole range and diverse range of different resources, where they get into contact with the content through what they view, what they see, what they read, what they hear in that environment. And this way then it's connecting to the content, getting them involved in that conversation, discovering some new ideas. And in the reference to the third space, it's really, well, what do they know from home? What are they looking at, the curriculum, and bringing them together in the third space environment. This is more about exposing them to content. And so you're bringing together, to a certain extent, the open and immerse. They can concertine together. and immersing them in the content. And they can continue to use the tools that they had in the open, and they can then also bring that further as they go through. So as they're going through looking at using some of these content tools to gain that background knowledge, to make the connection with the topic, these are the tools that you could use. And again, there are other tools that are listed on those two particular websites. So really, what combinations could you use? Well, for example, you could use Poplet with the National Geographic for kids, for younger students. You could use Padlet with ABC Splash, because on ABC Splash you've got videos, you've got web links, you've got documents, and it is across all year levels and subjects. And with the videos in particular in ABC Splash, they have preset questions to guide the interaction with the resource, and that means that you could use those and embed them, say, in the Padlet wall. The students then are viewing, say, the video and responding to the questions that you've got in Padlet. You could use Stormboard and link that into the TED-Ed or the National Geographic if you're working with some of your senior students. Really, the thing that we're trying to look at here is what knowledge and skills do you want the students to learn? As their guide, facilitator, mentor or coach, how are you going to move them forward and in what direction? So to a certain extent, we've got the questions, the 5W and how, which we would use with our students. We can then, as adults, apply that to this process of, what are we going to flip? How are we going to do that? When is it going to take place? And so forth. In the next video, look at the explore and gather phase. So we'll see you soon in the next session.